Acknowledge your speaker, Bobby Harrell, all the gaggle of gubernatorial candidates. You got a guy here who speaks with a funny accent. It's a Massachusetts accent. But he is a son of South Carolina. He is my good friend, my former boss, the longest serving chief of staff to a president of the United States in the history of our country, Andy Card. Now, you may, stand up and applaud the guy. Stand up and applaud him. You may wonder why I say a son of Massachusetts is a son of South Carolina. He's a USC grad. Something that he, something that he carries very close to his heart. He wears his South Carolina ring every single day. So a boy from Massachusetts who made good did so by being a smart guy and coming to Columbia, South Carolina to get an education. I want to thank Karen for the invitation. I couldn't turn her down. She's a force of nature. I want to thank Glenn and Cindy for their service. I met a very interesting couple here earlier tonight, and I want to introduce them. They don't know I'm going to do this. They came up to me and introduced themselves. This is the 43rd Silver Elephant Dinner, and this is the 43rd such dinner that Jenny and Earl Biedenbaugh have attended. Would you please stand up? Where are they? They're out there someplace. There they are. There they are. There they are. All right, so I'm 22 years old. I'm 22. I'm the newly elected chairman of the College Republican National Committee. I've been summoned with my executive director to the 4th floor of the Republican National Committee. We, the College Republicans, officed in the sub-basement, underneath the parking garage. In the sub-basement, they had the janitorial staff, the printing shop, some guys that we never knew what they exactly did, and us. So the chairman of the Republican National Committee, a fellow, a tall patrician Texan named George H.W. Bush, summoned the 22-year-old executive director and chairman of the College Republicans to the 4th floor of the RNC. First time we ever met him. First time I ever met the guy whose family I seem to have some sort of weird association with for the rest of my life. We walk in, two little snot-nosed kids, me and my South Carolina born and bred executive director, Lee Atwater. We're there to get the lecture. Okay, boys, don't spend more than your budget allows. Don't get into trouble. Do exactly what we tell. Check in regularly. Here's who you report to. It was actually a great meeting. We got off to a great start. And at the end of the meeting, which took longer than we thought, Lee started getting agitated. I know he's got a couple of fraternity brothers and college pals here, so you know what I'm talking about. He started going like, Mr. Chairman, can I ask you a question? George H.W. Bush says, well, yeah, you can ask me a question. He said, is it true you got a boat on the Potomac? Chairman says, yeah. Is it true it's like a bottle of weather with two every? Yeah, it is. Can I buy it this weekend? I mean, we just met the guy. And Atwater's tried to, hey, I know how to drive it and I'll return it full of gas. He says, there's a real cute girl coming up from South Carolina this weekend, and it would really impress you, Chairman, if I was able to take her out of the Potomac on your boat. Can I borrow your boat? Yeah. Had just enough chutzpah on it that Bush says, yeah. Well, the cute girl came up, and I kid you not, he married her. Sally Atwater's here. Sally, stand up. I'm here for 3 reasons. One is Karen told me to come. Whew, don't want to say no to her. Second of all, I love South Carolina, particularly after 2000. George Bush would not be president of the United States were it not for South Carolina. I remember sitting there. I remember sitting there in that upcountry hotel when the president, then Governor Bush, looked at me and said, if we lose here, we're dead. If we win here, I'm the Republican nominee, and we won here. Thank you so much, Barry and David and others, so many who played such a role, important role in this. Warren and others, I'll never forget it, and I know neither will he. But neither of those are important reasons. The third and most important reason is that we've got to let nothing keep us from victory in 2010 in this state. Now look, nothing. Now, I know DeMint's in good shape, but you got to keep that governorship in Republican hands. You got to worry about some of these congressional races. They're going to try and pull a surprise. They want Joe Wilson out. They know what a symbol he is. They know how strong a conservative he is, and they would love nothing better than in red South Carolina to deal a blow to him. That's why it's absolutely vital we get Joe Wilson back in. Absolutely vital. And while they're trying to pull a surprise on us, why don't we pull a surprise on them? Let's retire Spratt. Let's retire him. Moment. Senator, we're counting on you. And then it's important that you add to your numbers in the legislature, if at all possible, because next year you're going to get one additional congressman. And the choice is that going to be a Democrat district or a Republican district? Republican district. And then do that, you got to make certain you pick up seats in the legislature. So tonight I'm here in order to give you a little bit of encouragement. I want you to think about where we have come in 14 or 15 short months. You know, we had a 2008 election, and it was an historic election. Whether we voted for him or not, it says something grand and decent about our country, that in our lifetimes, we would elect an African-American president of the United States. It would. It is. Whether we voted for him or not, it says something good about America. But let's remember why we elected him. We elected him not because we thought he was, well, the best and clearly the only qualified candidate for president. In fact, in March of 2008, the Washington Post ABC poll asked, do you think he's qualified by experience to be president? And 46% said no, we don't think Barack Obama is. This is the highest number in the history of this question being asked. The next highest is 37% said that about Michael Dukakis in March of 1988. And they were right. He wasn't qualified to be president. At the end of a presidential campaign, one of the great things about our system of government is by the end of the campaign, whether you're for the candidate or against the candidate, we tend to come to believe that both candidates are up to the job. And so that number of unqualified to be president drifts down into the low 30s or the high 20s, or maybe even the mid-20s. And yet in 2008, 10 days before the election, the Washington Post ABC poll asked the same question again, and the answer was 42% said Barack Obama was unqualified. People voted for him not because they were absolutely convinced he was up for the job, but because it was sort of aspirational and inspirational, and because of what he had said and done in his campaign. He was a relentless centrist. A relentless centrist. He said, let's get past partisanship. We're not red states and blue states, we're United States. He was a fiscal conservative. He said, quote, I will scrub the budget line by line and end government programs that do not work. He was a deficit hawk. He decried the deficits of the Bush years, which ran 2% of GDP, slightly above the post-World War II average of 1.6%, but he said, that's too high. We got to do something about that. And you didn't see it in this state. Well, you didn't see it in this state because you weren't a battleground state, but maybe if you're living up country and you got a Charlotte TV station, you saw it towards the end. The second most widely shown campaign ad of the Barack Obama campaign in the fall said, quote, government-run health care, extreme, end quote. And then taxes. I'm going to cut taxes for everybody who makes less than $250,000 a year. Sounded pretty good. In fact, I had one of my assistants go through and read every single speech he gave from June to November and add up how many words he devoted to taxes and divide them into how many words were devoted to cutting taxes and how many to raising taxes. And for every one word about raising taxes, generally that he would return tax rates to the way that they were under Bill Clinton, there were 4 words about cutting taxes. cutting taxes. In fact, in the most widely shown speech of the entire campaign, his Denver convention speech, he doesn't talk about raising taxes at all.